This is Gerardo Del Real with Resource Stock Digest. Joining me today is the chairman and CEO of my favorite copper gold exploration play, and it will probably be that for years, folks. Hannan Metals, Mr. Michael Hudson. Mike, how are you today, sir?
Good morning from down under. I'm very well, thanks, Gerardo.
Well, let's get right into it. I'm going to be brief in my intro, unlike how I normally do things. Hannan channel samples 126 meters of 0.22% copper from Previsto Centro in Peru. You've expanded the copper gold porphyry footprint over at least 5 kilometers by 3 kilometers. I want you to really explain it to me like a fifth grader, as a non-geologist, why this is so significant and why this is it, look, frankly, it's unique. It's early. I'll caution that to listeners and readers, but it's a unique system what you have at Previsto, and then we can get into the details in a bit.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's standing back. We have a new copper gold porphyry belt in Peru. There's no doubt about that now, and we've got 18 porphyries we've identified, 5 that we've worked on with more detail. So we've done all the regional surveys and the magnetic surveys and identified the 18 targets, worked on 5 of them. They're porphyries. We've done the soil sampling. We've done geophysics over some. We've got some very close to, or much closer to drill permitting, which is the ultimate truth machine, as we know. But this one called Previsto is the monster that we found. The footprint is something like 3 by 4 kilometers, and that's a very, very, very large footprint. Caution, it is early, so soil sampling, channel sampling are only 2-dimensional, so we need to get 3-dimensional information, and drilling will be that. We're going down and doing some IP soon, which is a geophysical technique that will show us how much sulfide is in the ground, going to depth, to 500 to 600 meters. So that's one thing we can't wait to see. But the footprint, the scale, the grades that we're seeing in the soils are very high. And now with this press release, we're starting to find outcrops. Now, remembering outcrop in these high jungle means it's quite it's about 1,000 meters high, and it's hilly, very steep, and quite difficult terrain. So when you get into creeks, you get to see a little bit of outcrop, or where the rock comes to surface and not covered by soil or trees. And so that's probably 0.2% of the area, this very large area where we get to see these little windows of outcrop. And now we're starting to trench hundreds of meters at 0.1 to 0.2 copper. That's in itself, an impressive number in leached rocks. So the copper gets weathered out near surface and moves down below the surface, basically, or gets washed away, in simple terms. So that if we're seeing those sort of grades at surface, then there's good expectations that will be upgraded quite significantly at depth. So it's a unique system in terms of the scale. It's a part of a big new porphyry belt. This doesn't happen very commonly on Earth these days, where new porphyry belts are found. It's the right age, as the major porphyries that are about 50 or 60, 70 kilometers west of us, in the higher Andes, which produce, some of the world's largest mines, and Peru's the second or third largest copper producer on Earth. So we're in the right area, searching for elephants, and we're certainly, looks like we've got the head of one that's developing very nicely.
You said you used the word unique, right? I use the same word. How special is a system? And mind you, this is just Previsto Central. I want to talk about Previsto East here in just a bit. But how common or how special is it to have a 10 kilometer by 5 kilometer airborne magnetic and radiometric anomaly? How often have you seen that, Mike?
Well, in isolation, magnetic anomalies are common, but then in context of finding the mineralized rock and all the very high grade soils and channels that we're finding. So we definitely know we're in a porphyry system, and it's varying from a very gold rich top at the top of the hill, and then down 800 meters we're seeing the copper rich part. So we're seeing the system transition. So we know we're at the top levels of a porphyry. I've never seen anything at this scale that I've been involved with, and you'd have to go to some of the this is cautionary because we haven't got the drill holes into it yet, but the footprint and the scale of this system is equivalent to some of the biggest porphyries in the world. So you don't see the scale of these systems very often, and you really you can make if anyone's that wants to do the exercise, go and find the footprint of something like Escondida, one of the world's biggest mines in Chile, and put it next to the scale that we're finding. And it's a simple analogy and more work to do, but that's what we're comparing with.
Now, again, I want to be clear. What I just described and what you just described is just Previsto Central. 2.5 kilometers to the east, you have Previsto East, right? You mentioned in the news release the style of mineralization observed at both targets show strong similarities. Is it possible that the entire system is connected?
Yeah, that's why we're doing the geophysics. So what we found at Previsto East is some very high grade copper and gold in rocks, and it's actually the most gold rich part of the system. We haven't found outcrop there. It's this just very large, almost car sized blocks, right down to very small, and it looks like it could be either just sourced very locally, or it's a debris flow coming from 3 kilometers away, which would make this a massive system in itself if we're seeing it's shedding that far away. And that does happen in geology. Something like Yanacocha, which is one of the world's largest gold deposits, not too far from us, has some glacial deposits that are mined from the system, and they've been moved by glaciers over time. So we need to determine if there's a bedrock source to Previsto East, or it's just shedding from the monster 3 kilometers to the west.
What comes next in terms of de-risking the project, and then what comes next as far as the areas that get drilled first? It's a hypothetical because I know the answer, but I'm excited about the drilling at Belen, at Ricardo Herrera. I'm really excited drilling the monster right with Previsto. What steps are you taking now to further de-risk the project so that we can work on permitting the Previsto part of the project?
Yes, so as you mentioned, we're getting close to the end of the process at Belen, which is 2 porphyries and an epithermal system over 12 kilometres, and we've got 40 drill platforms that we're permitting there. So we hope to see more in Q3, Q4, sort of that boundary this year. So let's and that's about 12 or 13 kilometres from Previsto. So it's all part of this porphyry belt. At Previsto, the challenge is that it's such a large system that we've got to work, and we've got 30 people on it at the moment, 8 geologists and all the support technicians and local support, and then the geophysics is an exercise in logistics in itself, going 5 or 6 kilometre lines through the jungle. So lots of people, and we're putting lots of people on it so we can fast track it to determine which are the best, how does the system work, which are the best parts, which are the most easily accessible to get drill rigs in. And there's a road going past Previsto East, so literally you can you can drive a car to it. But then when you go further west, you're going up that hill, like I said, that's 800 meters high. So that's a little more challenging. So where are the best parts of the system? How does the system develop? And then what are we going to start permitting to be the first parts of that big system to drill, so we make sure we can test the best parts of it. So I'd say by the end of this season, which is around October, we'll have done all that work, and we'll have started all the environmental work and that we need to collect from the flora, air quality, water quality, etc., to be in a position to put an application in at the end of the year. So that's where we're going, but we're really going for it so we get as much answered so we can make sensible decisions around the end of this year.
The first drill bit that goes in will go into the Belen area. Can you speak to, and of course, we're assuming that the permitting goes as quickly as it has recently in Peru, with Peru making an effort to bolster the exploration budgets for companies by expediting permitting and doing it the right way. But there's definitely been a more consistent approach by the Peruvian government, at least to my simple brain and my simple eyes, right? So as far as Belen goes, what are you hoping to see from the drill bit when you finally get in there and start drilling here later this year or early next year?
Yeah, so we've got 40 platforms at Belen. We've got 2 porphyries, Ricardo Herrera and Sortalecchio. They're a kilometre by a kilometre in themselves, which is a significant footprint, but they're dwarfed by Previsto, but they're nevertheless significant dimensions. And then we've done the geophysics, at least at Ricardo Herrera, and we see that the system continues to great depth, and we literally know where to drill that tomorrow. So the key question really when you drill a porphyry and associated skarns around the edge of it, and then you've got the epithermal systems coming off to the side, is just to try and get into the best bits and what's the grade of it. So there's no doubt the mineral system's there, but what's the grade? Is it going to be a 0.4 porphyry or a 0.7? If it's 0.7, it's literally world class and grades, and that's where mines are being developed at those grades. 0.4 is not the number you'd probably want to see, absolutely, unless you've got some very favourable characteristics. But 20 years ago, 1% was the number. Maybe 10 years ago it was 0.7. Now it's coming down to 0.5. So it's a question around grade. Where do we focus as a junior? We know there's gold-rich systems for kilometres, and gold is a lot of easier story to tell and drill out than a porphyry in its own right. So we want to get those initial holes in, see what the system is, see what that grade is, and then we can make the correct decisions how to allocate our scarce capital and drill the best parts for the best bang for buck for our shareholders.
Looking forward to it. Anything else to add, Mike?
No, it's just an exciting time, Gerardo, and Peru is been slow to permit these things. We know that, but it's getting better. Like you said, certainly we're seeing double the speed, at least in Belen, from what we did in another project to the north, San Martin, in terms of where the Peruvian government is. We're getting support from the highest levels of government now, and they really want to demonstrate the country's open for business. So that's a key part. We're on a very large system, and we're starting to peel back the onion, or the layers of the onion, to work out where the best parts are. So keep an eye on it. There's news flow coming all the time with such a massive team on the ground.
I gotta believe your phone is likely ringing. I gotta believe majors are watching. Obviously, one of the largest shareholders is a major mining company. They have to be thrilled with what they're seeing.
Well, the whole reason Canada's largest mining company owned 9.9% was that they got, in the early days when we just had very little information about Previsto, they really liked that part of the system, and obviously their support, and they've come along in 3 tranches of financings over the last nearly 2 years now, and they've continued to follow their money and increase their position to 9.9% now is a independent validation that we have something unique. Without drill holes, we've got a 9.9% holding from Canada's largest mining company, and then a joint venture with the Japanese government in another project. So we're being backed by some of the biggest and best.
Looking forward to getting out there in September. Thank you so much for your time, Mike.
Thanks, Gerardo.
Cheers. Hey everybody, Gerardo Del Real here. If you're enjoying the content that you just saw, you can let us know in 3 simple steps. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and please share across your network and on social media. Take care, everybody.